Almost 51 years ago, my journey at Michigan Tech started across the street on the porch of Wadsworth Hall. My brother attended Michigan Tech and was a graduate in Double E in 1967, so I blame him for some of the reasons I started this journey. But a short 45 minutes after I arrived, my footlocker unloaded, everything moved into 513 East Wads, which was to be my home for a while. We went down to the porch there, and that's where a very significant event happened with my father. He left me with these very simple words. He said, if you're foolish enough to get into trouble, you better be smart enough to get out of it. You're on your own. Whereupon he and my mother jumped in the car and he left. And I didn't see him until Thanksgiving. But as things turned out, my first 2 years here were interesting. And as many young people at that time period, I kind of was trying to decide what I wanted to be when I grew up. And that caused me to make a decision to transfer after 2 years to that slightly green-colored university south of here in East Lansing. I graduated there, and I think probably the most significant thing was that I met my wife, Judy, while attending at Michigan State. I know she tells a story where she was working in psychology research, and I was doing some post-grad work there. And I walked in and noticed her name card, and her maiden name was Lampinen. And I said, I know that. Are you a Finnish? Are you from, have Finnish ancestry? And I said, where are you from? And she said, I'm from a little town in the UP you'd have never heard of, which was here in Houghton, because Judy's family is born and raised here. So as things work out, I graduated, Judy and I were married, and I started working, and then got the bright idea that I wanted to change my overall direction as the world was really changing then, and I decided to come back for a master's degree here at Michigan Tech. And that's really was the pivotal event, both in my life as Judy and I came back to the Copper Country, and then also from a career development standpoint as well, because that master's degree really set the stage for me to do what I've accomplished after that. Many years later, after graduating, I was promoted to a new position in the Chicago area, and our family, which now included our two young daughters, Jennifer, who's with us tonight, and my youngest daughter, Nicole, we moved to a Chicago suburb. There we would meet Dante Icavoni, who happened to attend the same church as we did. And as any of you have met Dante know, he's probably, including several at this table over here, which will be nameless, are one of the most persuasive individuals you'll ever run into. But Dante said he had a great idea that I should become part of the Michigan Tech Fund, and with Tom Irwin's help, they put the arm on me, and that started the first 10-year experience. I think, as Dean mentioned, I was kind of in and out several times, and the quote from the last Godfather movie kind of comes to mind is, just when you think you're out, they pull you back in. So that was probably one of the better things that happened. But over the next 2 decades, we saw the endowment fund grow from $11 million, which when we started in '96, to roughly $160 million-ish today, but not without challenges. Events at the national, state, and local level had changed the landscape for what we as a college needed to do and what the rest of the world was trying to do. And several issues became drivers for identifying critical needs that had to be met to respond to that new environment. So we really had to kind of evaluate and reevaluate what we were doing. Our knowledge and sophistication had to grow as the university situation changed, and as a result, significant positive change was implemented pretty much from top to bottom. But in my case, it was a pleasure and a privilege to work with the many volunteers, staff, and the faculty over that time to make sure Michigan Tech would continue to thrive, because that's what really got us up every day and caused us to come back time and again. In particular, I'd like to thank Gail and Glenn Mraz, who I worked with closely over those years, Bill Roberts and Eric Hallinan, who've helped me greatly, of course, Dean Johnson, and we spent many times arm wrestling with what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it on the investment side of it. And also I'd like to thank President Kubik. As he came into his office, I had the fortunate ability to try to help him ease into what Michigan Tech is all about and contribute in some small way to his becoming familiar with what the university is doing. And finally, I'd like to recognize 2 people that are sadly no longer with us. but who made a lasting contribution to the university and to me personally, and that is George Budvillis and also Dr. Max Seal. Miss them both terribly. Every time I come by campus, it's always going back to anecdotes that we shared together between us, and again, they're missed greatly by myself. I think my experience at being a part of the Alumni Association at Michigan Tech really confirmed a lot of the things that brought my family here in great numbers. I think there's up to 8 or 9 of my immediate family that have gotten degrees from Michigan Tech now. It seems that circle gets larger every few years. But I think providing leadership through a period of rapid change is always challenging. That's what we've learned. And we were blessed with having the right people in the right place at the right time. And I think that's really what the kind of the bottom line has been for me. And I can also say honestly that I've received as much or more than I gave in this relationship. The people I've known, the experiences they've shared, the opportunity to learn from somebody that's actually done it was immeasurable and helped me greatly in my career. And I'd like to thank those people and the Alumni Association for this great honor. Thank you.